Hi, good morning. Welcome to our post-sectoral budget press conference, post-sectoral debate press conference. We are available here to answer the questions of the media based on the presentation that was made by the minister. I would like to welcome our permanent secretary, Dr. Grace McLean, our CEO, Dr. Kassan Troop, support staff here from the ministry, our minister, the Honorable Favour Williams, and also members of the Jamaica Information Service who are managing this process. I will ask the minister to come and give her address, and then we will allow questions and answers based on the issues that you wish to raise. Minister?
Thank you, Minister Morgan. Good morning, everyone. Let me recognize our Permanent Secretary, Dr. Grace McLean, our Chief Education Officer, Dr. Kassan Troop, other members of the team from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, from JIS, and all members of the media who are on this platform this morning. Thank you for being here. I wanted to have this press briefing this morning to explore in greater depth the sectoral presentation, which I asked the question. I said our public schools should be ranked among the best in the world. Why aren't they? And it begins from the premise that government and households invest a lot in education relative to the budget of the government of Jamaica, relative to the budget of the households. I further showed comparison of Jamaica versus other Caribbean countries and the rest of the world. Government and household have been putting out, investing. We're not getting high student achievement across the board, which is the product that the education sector should be producing. I laid out what my observations over the last 7 months of being here at the ministry has revealed in terms of what I believe are missing and what we should be focusing on. And I started with accountability. And I was very careful to note that accountability is not the same as blame. Accountability means taking responsibility for the results, whether they're good or bad, assessing those results, taking the action to make the results better the next time. I believe as well that we need heavy-duty character education in our schools. And what do I mean by that? We need to teach our children honesty, ethics, respect for other people, and there are a whole host of traits that make up our character that we should be teaching over time. That is going to mean getting the necessary expertise to our teachers. It's going to mean activities in school, for example. For a whole month, we could focus on what does it mean to be respectful to others. Have children seriously be aware of it, practice it at school. When they go home, they come back to school, they report on it. How are you respectful today? What did you do? And you take the themes and you roll it through the year. You practice. Another missing was the system-wide teacher effectiveness in the classroom. And I drew a lot on the many reports that the National Education Inspectorate has been writing over the years. And teacher effectiveness is one of the variables in their report. And they've identified that there are many of our primary schools, high schools too, where teacher effectiveness is low. And if you read their reports, you will see that. It's just that we have never taken it on to say, what is teacher effectiveness? How do you improve it in the classrooms? I've laid out as well some ways in which I believe we can improve teacher effectiveness in the classroom. One being continuous in-service professional and personal development to help our teachers. Teachers spending more time teaching, and in particular we need to look to see exactly how teachers are spending the class sessions and to bring awareness to the fact that those class sessions are really extremely important and they ought not to be doing anything else other than teaching in those class sessions. Students need to spend more time learning. Education takes time. And so that's why when we get back into the face-to-face mode in normal operations of school, we have to have a broad base after school extra lesson for our student to ensure that they put in more time into learning. And we know that when you put more time into learning, you learn more. We need to have accountability as well for student absenteeism. And I pointed out the research that was done by the PIOJ Statin in their most recent publication, the Jamaica Survey of Living Condition. What are some of the issues that keep students out of school? We can tackle all of those issues. The top one is illness. And we've identified that is asthma. So we're going to get help. We're going to seek help wherever, not just at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, but our international partners to help us to look at how we can deal with that issue in our students. There were others. Rain, money problems, school closed. We have to take them on. We've laid out the priority actions as well to include transitioning our primary schools from the generalist model in the classroom where one teacher teaches everything. And we're going to start by focusing on those schools that NEI has ranked unsatisfactory or in need of urgent intervention. We want to scale up the master teacher model. I need to understand what we have now and how we can expand that. We have technology. We can use that to expand the master teacher model across the system. We also have to give our teachers more help and support in understanding the STEM methodology. The curriculum is based on STEM methodology. It's a relatively new curriculum. We need to figure out ways to help our teachers to truly understand what it means to be teaching in a STEM environment. And then we have to move forward on teacher appraisal and the National Teacher Competency Index, as was recommended by NEI. And I know there's quite a bit of work that has gone on already into the teacher appraisal. And we will be seeing more of that in the days and weeks ahead. We need to establish an online repository of lesson plans. Let's take advantage of the technology. Lesson plans take a lot of time to get done. There are many. If you Google lesson plans on the internet, there are tons of lesson plans. We're not saying we're going to get them from the internet because we have the expertise here at the Ministry of Education to develop those in line with the curriculum. So teachers have them, they're available. And we know across the system what's the quality of the lesson plan that's being used. And we can help our teachers I know across the system there are teachers who've developed great lesson plans. We'd love them to share those with others. We'd love teachers to collaborate across the system and not feel isolated in the classroom. We want as well to publicly acknowledge that maybe our boys have a different learning style and we ought to be treating them differently. Yes, I know gender-based teaching is not popular, but as I said in the sectorial, we're in a crisis in education and we have to try different methods. And we've seen where our boys have gravitated based on the CSEC results to the TVET-like subjects. So we should take advantage of that. In our early childhood sector, we want to institutionalize the Jamaica School Readiness Assessment. I know that that has been done 3 years in a row, but we haven't taken advantage of what that readiness assessment is telling us. The data is only now being analyzed. We have to get better at it in terms of making it more timely. We have to accelerate the pace at which we create government-sponsored infant schools, because we know that in those schools there will be trained practitioners. The ECC has already identified over 100 such schools that can be transitioned, and we need to action that. We need to also provide our early childhood practitioners with personal and professional development, and we really need to expand their understanding of the value of play for children at that age. In our post-secondary, we need to create options that are on par with CAPE, which is a traditional sixth form. And so you will see us move to make the Career Advancement Program a sixth form option with the necessary exams. So students have a real option for sixth form in the school that they attend as high school. We know that there is some constraint which is with regards to space, but we're going to use the technology in the first instance to help us to solve that space problem. And talk about space, we have to look at our school's infrastructure. We have the data that tells us that some of our schools are in vulnerable areas. We have the data that tells us which schools are over capacity. And so I will be putting together this information, laying out a plan that we will get approved, take it through the process. We know it's going to be a multi-year program, but we have to begin now. And while we build out, we must accommodate some boarding options in our schools so that parents can make a decision if they want their child to be boarded. So I think I'm missing. I've covered everything in the education sector. In our child care and protection sector, you might have heard just how stark that is in terms of the abuse to our children. And we have to raise the awareness among parents. And so you will see us roll out in short order a good parenting campaign. And it won't just be a one-week thing. It's going to be a sustained good parenting campaign to provide parents with information on alternatives to corporal punishment, to have some intervention strategies. We need an early warning system in this sector to alert us that something is starting to go wrong in the life of our children. Absenteeism from school is an early warning signal. And that's why we're going to develop the attendance up so that we have reliable but also timely information about absenteeism, who is absent, so then we can intervene to find out what are the issues. And we can find that out early. And then we have the 211 helpline. Minister Morgan has been working diligently in the child care and protection sector. He's ferreted out the fact that there's this 211 helpline that we can use to report, strictly report, not anything else, child abuse. And we know that neighbors have information very early on. They hear the beatings. We want them to be able to report it, because those are early warning signs as well that something is going wrong in the life of a child. And we're going to be launching that in May and during Child's Month, and we will give more information on how to use it. We will have it properly staffed with with professionals, so that when persons call in, they can, give the proper information. In the information portfolio, the big action there is to transition from analog free-to-air television to digital free-to-air television. Currently, a high percentage of Jamaicans still only have access to analog free-to-air television, which gives them limited channel choices. When we transition to digital, there should be way more channel choices for Jamaicans, so giving everyone access to more information. We've started that process, and our timetable is to complete it by 2023. And with that, I will now turn it back over to Honorable Robert Nesta Morgan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Minister. I will now ask Ms. Lisa Rowe to moderate the question and answer segment. Ms. Rowe?
Thank you, Minister Morgan. Thank you so much, Minister Williams, for giving an overview of your presentation to the sectoral debates. Just to remind our media partners to state your name and the media house that you are representing, as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'm now going to open the floor for question and answers. I see the first hand out the gate is Mr. Keys. Mr. Keys, could you just unmute yourself and ask your question?
Good morning, everyone. So my question is regarding the post-pandemic recovery, in a sense. So I see a number of programs present, but I wanted to ask whether or not we're looking at implementing a more robust psychosocial support system for teachers and students for the return to the face-to-face classes, because I know or I understand that professionals are expecting that there may be a number of challenges in that regard. And in your report there was the highlight that teachers spend a large amount of time controlling classes. So I wanted to find out whether or not that kind of support is going to be implemented going forward.
Absolutely, that is a must, especially in the early days when we come back from, being in the pandemic, when we get back to the face-to-face. It happens now, online, but I think it will be more effective when we are in the face-to-face in the classroom and we can do it. Children are able to ask questions, and, and it will be broad-based across the system, and it will be for some time, probably every day for a month or two, because we've all been going through this pandemic. We've been isolated for the most part. Life has been different. Not everybody understands exactly why. They know there's a virus, it's impacting people. But as you can see in the general population, not everyone is still wearing a mask or, keeping their distance or doing their hand sanitizing. So when we get back into that mode after that, we have to explain to the children what happened and why it was necessary for them to be out of school, but also how do we restore them so that they can begin again anew. So definitely.
Thank you, Minister Williams. We're going to now go to Vashan Brown. Vashan, just unmute so that we can have you pose your question to Minister Williams.
All right, thank you so much, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. First question. So, Minister, you acknowledged the difficulties with contact hours, pointing to a World Bank study. Now, one of the questions being raised is, why would the government sanction extra lessons instead of ensuring that there's more official teaching time during school hours? That's one. And two, you also said the details of that extra lesson plan are being worked out. By when can we hear more about this initiative?
Okay, in terms of your first question, we're going to try to get back some of the time that's lost in the classroom. But even if we get back all of it, it's still not enough. Education takes time. Learning takes time. And that's why, as I pointed out, there are many parents who pay for extra lessons. It's not because they believe their child is not learning in class. The child is learning, but parents recognize learning takes time. You have to put in the hours to learn. Anybody who wants to be good at anything has to put in the time. All of our sports figures that we love, ask them how much time they have to put in to be good. A lot of time. Education is no different. You have to put in the time to get the high level of achievement. And the second question with regards to the extra lessons, the details of it, I'm sure we're going to take some time because it needs to be broad-based across the system. We have to work out in terms of who will be doing it, when, how do people sign up. We have to have in place an electronic platform so students can sign up. They'll know what time, where, and all of that. There's just a bit of logistics to work out, and I don't necessarily want to put a time frame on it just right now, but it will be done.
Thank you, Minister Williams. Just to remind those who are joining us on our Zoom platform that Minister Williams is supporting by the Acting Permanent Secretary, Dr. Grace McLean, and also our Acting Chief Education Officer, Dr. Kassan Troop. And of course, you would have seen Minister Morgan here as well, providing support to Minister Williams. We're now going to move to Mr. Siobhan Campbell from Nationwide News Network.
Good morning. This is Siobhan Campbell, Nationwide News. I have a few questions, but I'm going to limit it to two to allow my other colleagues to take part. The first question is regarding the character education that Minister Williams brought up during her presentation. I'm curious, is this just a reintroduction of civics, or are we speaking about something a bit more comprehensive in terms of teaching students how to be better citizens? My next question is an extension of Bashan's. The extra lessons for the most vulnerable and needy. A lot of these students who would require these kind of lessons aren't in a position to properly take part in them due to matters such as transportation, the appropriate time after school. Is the government, as part of its thinking, considering to provide some sort of benefit to these students in order for them to take full extent of these lessons? Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. So in terms of character education, you asked about civics, and civics is taught in schools right now. The new curriculum introduced that. I think it's grade across the board? Across the board. But character education is more than just civics. It is teaching our students character traits like honesty, respectfulness, generosity, integrity, loyalty, devotion, kindness, sincerity, and having them practice those so that they become a part of you. So let's take kindness. It's not just teaching what kindness is. It's having the students practice kindness and reporting on it when they come back to school. It's taking all the good character traits that we want to see and initially explaining them, speaking about them, but also practicing them, right? It's going to be a significant program. It's going to be part of the curriculum so that we institutionalize it. We don't just want it to be a one speech here and there. I know we have to do some more work in terms of exactly how it will be in the curriculum and how it will be implemented on the ground, but this is something that we have to do if we're going to change the tide in Jamaica. We have to. Thank you. Extra lessons? The extra lessons. Again, as I said before, there are many things to be worked out with extra lessons. One, we're going to need a platform on which students can schedule. There are many different parts to it. We're talking about schools that are all across Jamaica. We are going to have to use a blend for those children who have the technology. For those who don't, we're going to have to do face-to-face. We're going to have to work out as to whether or not it happens right after school or later in the afternoon. There are a number of factors to consider in order to be able to make it work smoothly in the system. And so that's why we're going to take some time to think it through. It's something we have to do to recover what we have lost, the 4.3 years gap that we have, plus the learning loss from COVID. We just have to put in the time. There is no way around it. We just have to do it. And we have to do whatever it takes to get our children back and move them ahead. We can't expect to have high student achievement across the board and in our schools, and we don't invest the time. We have to invest the time.
Thank you, Minister Williams. Just checking again, do we have any more questions from our media partners who are on Zoom? Mr. Keys. All right, Mr. Keys, you can go ahead with your question.
Thank you so much. So my next question is regarding the overall curriculum. So there are two questions here. The national standards curriculum, I know when that had the implementation of that curriculum had started, there were some challenges regarding, well, some educators had expressed at the time that there are challenges regarding material for implementing and teaching in the classroom regarding this curriculum. I also understand that some of these teachers still have those concerns that they have to be sourcing material outside of the requisite texts. Has that been improved, one, and also update as it regards to training for educators? When the national standards curriculum was implemented, there was a 2-week training, I understand. Has there been a national refresher training then for educators implementing the NSC? And my final question is regarding the STEAM approach. Jamaica has now adopted the STEM approach, and I heard the minister refer to it as a new mechanism. It is new to us, but as the world is now transitioning to STEAM, wouldn't it be more prudent for us to look in that direction as it relates to our curriculum?
I'll take your last question, and then I'll ask Dr. Troop to speak to the national standards curriculum. So it's STEM. We recognize the A, and you will note that the 6 schools that are going to be built are actually, well, STEM plus the Performing Arts School, which it would be the A. So yes, that is where we're heading. But I do recognize that teachers have to understand very well the methodology, and I believe a lot more personal development, professional development on that score is needed among our teachers, not just a one session refresher here and there, more concentrated than that, so that it becomes second nature to them, this STEAM methodology. I'll ask Dr. Troop to take the question on the national standards curriculum.
Thank you very much, Minister Williams. Good morning to members of my team and members of the media. Okay. So yes, Javon, we were made aware of the difficulties that some of our teachers were having when we introduced the new curriculum, but that has been significantly reduced since then. We have done ongoing training with our teachers. When we learned of the challenges post the immediate implementation sessions, we actually went into refresher training. All our regional directors were charged to do make-up sessions with all our teachers. We actually funded that experience from Central Ministry, and we got successful reports coming out of those interventions. Since then, built into our supervision framework, we have ongoing training provided by our curriculum officers. All our curriculum officers have the expertise. They were actually involved in the development of the curriculum. They were writers, they were reviewers, and so we have the expertise located within our ministry to provide successful support for our teachers. In recent times, we have launched our common planning time, which is also an opportunity to delve deeper into the curriculum and to provide the support for our teachers. Upon reflection, in that interface, our teachers are able to say what their challenges are, what is it that they're not understanding, and the technical support is provided for them. As it relates to resources, we provide ongoing support in that area. We have a media services unit that is a part of our curriculum unit, and they provide resources to support the teaching and learning of the curriculum. During the implementation, we provided resources for that, and we continue to do so as we listen to our teachers. Our minister has also charged us to go even further this year to, as you have heard, write these lesson plans and make them available. And in addition to writing that, we now have to provide actual support resources that we will now deliver to our schools to support those individual lesson plans. And you will hear further, our ministers have charged us to look more at the budget within our schools and to see how we can make sure that sufficient resources are allocated at the school level to enrich the engagement in the teaching and learning episodes for our teachers. So we have been listening. Of course, in addition to the teaching materials, we provide our textbooks. Minister said in her speech yesterday that we spend approximately $1 billion annually on teaching and support resources for our schools, and we continue to provide that, and that there's a commitment for that amount of resource in this year's budget, in this year's academic support that we are rolling out for our teachers to be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Troop, or Acting Chief Education Officer, for ably providing us with a very detailed response to the question as it relates to the national standards curriculum and how the ministry is going about ensuring that these schools are adequately resourced. We'll now go to Mr. Siobhan Campbell again from Nationwide News Network. So Siobhan, you can go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon and good morning again, actually. My question is regarding to the minister's statement regarding gender-based learning. I would like her to expand her thinking on that. Is this a matter that we're suggesting will be funneling men versus women into particular directions rather than actively teaching them the same curriculum? I just want to have a firm understanding of what's the thinking behind this push for gender-based learning.
Okay, Siobhan, thank you for that question. It's not a push for gender-based learning. It's a recognition that our boys have fallen behind. They're not achieving as well as they should be. And so we have to acknowledge that maybe they have a different learning style. Maybe they are more tactile. Maybe they need more practical things to do to help with their understanding of the material. And we should not ignore that. We have seen that this has been experimented with in some of our schools, and it's given good results, where you might have a boys-only class focusing on maths. It doesn't mean that girls are not learning maths. They are learning maths. But you kind of, as the teacher, as the principal in the school, if the boys are falling behind in a particular area, then you have to work on that. You can't just let them go along and they keep falling more and more behind. And again, for the experiments that have been done, for those schools that have done that, they've seen good results. And we're saying, wherever possible, if you can, you should do it. You should, for subjects in which you notice that there's a gap between boys and girls, and the boys are not learning as fast.
Thank you, Minister Williams. I am seeing a question, or a raised hand rather, from JA Life Media. Could you just state the media house that you're representing? And if you could just go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Are you hearing me?
Go ahead. We're hearing you now.
Okay, so this is Luke Douglas. I'm representing Loop News and News Talk 93 FM. Good morning to Minister Williams, Minister Morgan, and your team. So my question was about the role of absenteeism and its impact on learning outcomes. I see where there is a plan to develop an absenteeism app. I'd like to know a little bit more about this, and also the role of absenteeism at present, because there is a feeling that nothing is being done by successive governments over the years about school dropouts, which is one of the main causes for the low outcomes in school. So if you could comment on what exists to prevent absenteeism and how it will be addressed going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. What we do know currently, based on the statistics, is that nationally, only about 74% of our children are consistently present in school. What we do know are the top 4 reasons for absenteeism. The first one is illness. Asthma affects our children badly. And like I said, knowing that and having that data, now we have to figure out what are the interventions. How can we help? What is it? I know that a lot of parents use the asthma pump. For some parents, that's a big expense. How do we deal with that? It's something we have to deal with. The next reason for absenteeism has to do with some money problems. And when you drill down into that, you recognize that for parents, the top 3 items are lunch money, transportation, and school uniform. When you look at the other 2, one was school closed. Again, when we get back into the face-to-face mode, we have to figure out why a school may be closed. We have 190 school days in the year. A school should not be closed without permission. And then you look at, there are many children who cite rain as a problem for not coming to school. I was alarmed by the numbers in rural areas. We have to use the technology. If rain is preventing a child from not coming to school and school is happening, then that child should be able to stay at home and use the technology and be able to still be at school, if you will. I know we're not there yet in terms of the deployment of technology in our schools, but we're running very quickly to ensure that all our schools have connectivity, proper bandwidth. We're describing a minimum bandwidth for our school based on the enrollment in the school. We are running quickly to get technology in our schools and in the hands of our students. We know that there are many communities that still don't have, proper connectivity. I know Minister Vaz over at the Ministry of Science, Education and Technology has that as his #1 priority, and you will be seeing significant improvements going forward. In terms of dropout, I identified in my sectoral yesterday that it's a big deal. The top reasons for dropping out: no interest in school. Among the boys, no interest. So that means they have decided that school doesn't have anything for them. So we have to provide what is interesting to those persons. Another thing that I mentioned is a concern to me is the expulsion from schools. Pregnancy among girls is a big thing for dropout. So all those we have to take on. It can't be that a student getting expelled for whatever the reason, that's the end of the line for that student with regards to his or her education. Same way with pregnancy. It can't be that it's the end of the line. Those are tough situations, but we have to bring solutions to them if we want to see that attendance number increase, if we want to see our children get education. We have to figure out, and again, we have the technology, let us use it for those, in particular for those students who have been expelled. If they can't be in the school environment physically, they can be there virtually, continuing their education. We're in a different world right now, and we have to take advantage of everything that's available to us to help our children succeed. The product from the education sector is student achievement. We know the products that other sectors produce, and we expect those products to be of high quality. Similarly, from the education sector, it is student achievement, high student achievement. That's the product. And we have to do everything to achieve that. And there's a lot here at the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. You'd be amazed at the research, the knowledge, the resources that are here. We just have to dig deep, lean forward, and get things done.
Thank you, Minister Williams. Just making one final check to see if there are any more questions on our Zoom platform. Just to pause to acknowledge members of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, senior members who are also on Zoom providing support for our minister. And at this time, not seeing any more questions, so I will now just hand over to Minister Morgan, the Honorable Minister Morgan, Minister of State here at the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, to close out our press conference this morning.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I would like to thank members of the media who have participated and asked their questions. I want to thank the acting PS, the acting CEO, the minister herself for her presentation. Just want to make a short announcement. We'll be having a town hall this evening at 6 p.m. I think the links have already been advertised and sent to the media, where the minister will further answer questions, not just from journalists, but also from members of the public, parents, persons in the education sector, and so on. So once again, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate the support and the coverage, and look forward to more information coming from the ministry. Thank you.